Okay, well, I guess that the first thing that I want to do is like I made a list of things that I want to talk about. First is that my computer's been broken for a month, so I haven't been on the internet for a month. I had to do things, talk to people, ride my bike, and other things, social interaction. But the I guess the main point I want to talk about is since see that you're the only person I've ever talked to on YouTube before. Like I've had like my YouTube account ever since 2006, and for the first 3 years I didn't use it at all, and now I've been using it for the past 2 years to just do things like talk about random people. This is more like a blog, and so I don't really talk to anyone on YouTube because like I'm kind of shy, and so like in another video where I say that I'm INFP, if that where it's a personality type. Well, the thing is that some people are just shy, and so that might be the reason why some people don't think that I'm that personality type. If you want to know for a reference of another video I made. But anyway, since I made this list, I'm going to talk about what's on the list. Now, first of all, since it's the singularity topics, I'm going to talk about authority. It's like if they know what you're going to do all the time, then what about each other? Because like if it's spy versus spy, or like if it's like Will Smith, enemy of the state, then of course there's going to be like security breaches and all that stuff, and so they're going to want to know as much about you as possible. But since it's survival of the fittest, it's survival of the smartest, the ones that has the most information. And plus, not everyone cares about this and all that. They'll just like go to Walmart and say, "Hey, I want the facial hologram thing that will protect me from cameras or whatever." And so if it turns out to be like a cyberpunk novel, then pretty much that has to deal with authority, and so that'll pretty much handle that. Of course, like if everyone wants to be public and stuff like that, that has to do with another thing you brought up, which is free will. Like how are they going to monitor you if you want to keep secrets, and if other people want to keep secrets, and like are you going to like whisper like, "Well, I'm doing her," or I'm doing him, like in a date or like a sex or something. And so like people are going to still want to keep certain things private, and so there'll be like backdoor channels, like internet lock switches, like a Fermi cage, like it keeps radio transmissions out and stuff like that. And so the free will thing is like that's not gonna go away, like because some people are just like too much of an individual to actually want to give away more than what they could. And even if the people, like you were saying, that the babies were born and they would always have that always being observed, well that's just will be natural for them. And so if it's natural for them, the only reason we're freaked out is because it's not natural for us. And so I guess for them it'll be just obvious, but just as like child predators, like you wouldn't want to send your baby pictures of your kid in a tub, but is it like some pervert or something like that? And so you want to keep some certain things private and like only allow like your son or your family members to, or whoever you give the video to keep it private within the family or something or other. And so now I want to come up with two of my ideas. Like I was just thinking a while ago when I was on the Ray Kurzweil forum, like Ray Kurzweil's acceleratingintelligence.net, raykurzweilai.net or something. It has to do with what's going to happen when Jupiter becomes a supercomputer. Because right now, if you think about it, the computer that's in the most high-end video graphics card, I think it's an NVIDIA, that can do 1 trillion calculations a second. The number of transistors on that is like 1 billion or so. but that's like 1/100th of what's inside a single cell in your skin. Like there's 10 trillion atoms in a single cell, and there's 10 trillion cells in your entire body, which makes like well, for a total like 10 to the 24th atoms. But if even from what Kurzweil said is that that 10 to the 25th atoms is in the brain because of a kilogram of matter, so that would make 10 to the 27th atoms for the entire body. So I guess that water is kind of included, and so I guess that for a rough estimation, let's just say that a billion is not 10 trillion. And so a cell, a tiny little cell, has more computational power just from the number of atoms it has, if every atom was like a transistor, to do things than a billion transistors in a chip, whereas like a transistor would be the size of a cell, whereas the cell would be just like a way more advanced computationally or complexity wise. And so just from that, like, can you imagine like using all the atoms in your body as a computation, or using all the atoms in the earth as a computation? And so if you were to think about that kind of computing power, what's going to happen is that like once we expand our consciousness, how are we going to expand our consciousness to beyond like if you could store the entire internet in like a grain of sand right now, that's the entire internet in a grain of sand right now. All those big computers and Google and the Googleplex and Amazon. Well, so what are you going to do with all that computation? Well, first of all, what I think we could do is that since what will the actual computer be? Now, first of all, we could use like crystals instead of metal, because like, well, crystals can be metal, but like diamond crystals with a little bit of tweaking, so like a few impurities just for a switching mechanism. And so from the idea that I was telling you about, from where I put it up on Kurzweil's website, where he has a forum there, on the forum I sort of started without this idea. And so what it is that just like if you take a hologram and or first of all, you take a crystal the size of this room, and then you take the amount of information that's in our atoms, like in my entire body. Like if I wanted to store all the information in my entire body, I would need a computer bigger than my body. But in this way, since it's light can be stored in such a way as in you can store more light in a compact space than you can actual matter. So since light can be compacted more so is information, then you could hold like all my information in like a very small space, smaller than I am now. But if you were to do it with the hardware wise, like if you needed transistors or like metal transistor gates or something like that, then you would have to be like the size of this planet to store all the information just inside my entire body. But with this way, you could store all the information as light in a crystal. And so by doing that, like that's the thing, is that when I imagined Kurzweil talking about Jupiter like planets and we exist inside the computer, I was thinking like, are we going to be floating like in a and this is what I also think about cloud computing. It's like if we're in this giant globe of a computer, and are we floating in there? It's like we can't. It's sort of like fish in water. Like if you're a fish in water, you don't really know about the liquid so much as you're experiencing a translucent vastness, whereas you're moving through it. And just because of the properties of the ocean, you don't notice the water so much as you experience a vastness. And so that's what I think about when if you were to exist inside the computer, a big vastness. And so what it could be is that if we exist as light forms, sort of like a New Age thing where light bodies or something, or Terrence McKinnon, DMT, or David Icke's experience of reptilians and millions of vibrational patterns. Well, if we could imagine existing inside a Jupiter computer, then that really would be the case. It really would be the case because in order to travel, well, first of all, a crystal, when it's vibrating, that's what it either vibrates off light or it absorbs light. And so if I were in a room, a crystal the size of this room, and I existed just like my proper size inside this crystal, with all the information I have in my body right now, then it would be sort of like if I vibrated in a certain way, and depending on what the crystal was made out of, different parts of my body would go in different directions. And so just like in the Terminator, where he was a liquid Terminator, and he had to change his shape of the nanobots inside him, I would have to change the light frequencies inside me to move through this crystal the size of this room. So I could be any shape I wanted to. I could interact with other light beings that were from other crystals, occupying different spaces within Jupiter, and also the channels. Whereas if I wanted to travel all the way to that side of Jupiter, I would just like say, hey guys, can I use a channel to get to that side of Jupiter? And I would probably, since I made out of light, travel, since it's a crystal and that depends on diffraction rate, so it would probably be, because light travels slower in glass and it travels slower in water, just depending on how fast you travel through different crystal mediums. And so this crystal medium would be all throughout Jupiter, and because of that, you could travel from one end of Jupiter to another end of Jupiter at the speed of light. So like 3 seconds from here to the moon, is that probably that fast, like maybe like 6 or 7 seconds to get from one side of Jupiter to the other side of Jupiter. But you would all be doing that by thinking about it, by changing your frequencies within your photons, because what it would be is just like information travels through a Turing machine, light, the types of frequencies you put into a type of crystal, the frequencies in the crystal, just like in a Turing machine in a finite state computer, you put the frequencies through the certain crystals, and then you get a computation. But since we are the light, and the crystal is just the place we live, just flowing through the crystals would transform us in however imaginable ways that I could think of. And since evolution is about creating diversities like mutations, then like if you went through the wrong crystal, then you probably mutate or something like that and probably disintegrate. But that's just something like if you could have like a sandbox simulation to like deal with problems like that. Anyway, those are just some thoughts that I've been thinking about all today, since I haven't been on the internet all day, and so like I would like to know what you think about those.